You know those Celsius energy drinks? They use some crazy technology. Put it into powder form. You just toss that in your water. Nice bit of caffeine. And the reason I got this on, well, I'll show you. Let's go. I'm telling you, if you haven't tried a sauna before, go to a gym that has a sauna, get a sauna, do something, try it out. It's crazy. Especially if you've been editing for a long time, you hop in that and then get back to editing. It like, dude, it revives you like insane. It also just helps with like creativity and I don't know, just like refreshing your brain after you've been sitting at your computer for like ever. Whew. Oh my God, that feels crazy. I'm literally steaming, bro. It's so hot. So I don't know if you can see behind me, I have this really nice cable management thing. Well, all my cables are on the ground. But since I started vlogging and I have to show my setup in every video, kind of want to fix that. So that's what we're gonna do. You are lucky because you don't have to actually watch this whole process. I'm gonna do it and you're gonna see what it looks like after. Way better, look at that. That wasn't bad, that was like 15 minutes. We gotta do something about that, but that'll be a different video. You guys seen this? Shake Sauce extension installer. Ooh, 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 check this. Window, extensions. Pow. Look at that. It's kind of funny right now, it's a guy making espresso, but there'll be a better thumbnail. Check it out, bro, Shake Sauce. I'm showing too much, I'm showing too much. So that's the first version of Shake Sauce that's actually in an extension. Beta version is just a preset, completely separate. This is a third-party thing from After Effects. Install it, and then it pops up in its own browser. Visuals, there's gonna be sliders, everything. It's really cool to start seeing the vision come to life because like with extensions, it's completely different than preset packs and all this stuff. Like you actually have to hire someone that knows how to code and make UI and do all this stuff. And then you have to tell them and direct them what to do. So like now it's like going back visions and stuff, seeing what I want. I'm still like the brains of like what's happening and how everything interacts with the footage, but I need someone that's a little bit more skilled with coding and UI and all this stuff to actually execute it and make it into an extension. It's cool because it's like on a whole nother level than preset packs. I've been thinking about extensions and plugins and stuff in After Effects for so long. And it's like, it's just really dope that I started vlogging around this time so I could document it and kind of show the process of how it evolved from a preset pack to an extension, to the next step, and then it just keeps on evolving. That's gonna be sweet. But what I'm thinking for this video is Cole just dropped the official Poland video on Lyrical Lemonade. Let's give it a watch and then see if we can recreate something from it. So 3 main things I'm noticing right off the start. He has this film aesthetic that's really clean. Colors are nice. He has really nice like handheld camera movement. I saw like the BTS and he was using like the Sony, like I forgot what the exact name for it is. Someone in the comments will let me know, but like this camcorder. And then there's this blur transition that he's using that kind of like it plays with opacity and also directional blur. I can break that down too. Ooh, that 3D's hard. Bro, I need to learn 3D. I have been slacking with this so much. You guys have my word. In one of these vlog series, I'm gonna tackle Blender for the first time and we're gonna make the donut or something in Blender. That way I can start learning, that way I can start teaching, because stuff like this is just so sick and it's like clearly the future of music video editing and just editing in general and video stuff. I think you're at a major disadvantage if you're not using some form of 3D in your content or at least learning it. So one of these vlogs, we're definitely doing something in Blender, maybe Unreal, and just playing around and learning. Just getting in the software is like the hardest part. It's like a huge barrier to entry, it feels like. I remember with After Effects, I was like, what the hell? Like, what is this software? But once you start using it and stuff and now you're familiar, it's like I can recreate any effect in After Effects or any effect in Premiere Pro. I also used to use Cinema 4D like a long time ago, probably when I was like 13 or 14 years old, and I would make like Call of Duty, like 3D text intros and stuff. So I don't think it's gonna be too hard for me to like pick up on 3D. I'm already kind of familiar, it's just been a while. And then he also introduced like these VHS cams, which will recreate something like this digitally. But a lot of this video just comes down to camera movement or like the type of camera he's using, like an old camcorder. From my understanding, all this footage was handheld. I didn't watch the behind the scenes yet, and we could actually check that out here and see exactly how he did it. Let's go on Lyrical Lemonade too. A lot of these shots are just like handheld shots with like just smooth motion, and having like a rig on your camera, that helps out a lot. You can see what he's doing here. He's using the camera kind of almost like how a crane would pan down here and just pan around. That's such a sick shot. So yeah, like I said, a lot of it just comes down to the camera movement itself. Like if you have a rig or something that you can grab on the camera, you can do like these smoother motions way easier. Like this is a little shaky, it's one arm with like a GorillaPod tripod. You get the idea, like if you have things on your camera, that way you can make the movement a little bit smoother instead of just holding your camera by its body. I think just like getting creative with camera angles and stuff has been a lot of fun. Like even in these vlogs, just moving the camera in different spots in my room and stuff, and doing different zoom lengths and just stuff like that. They like broke the norm for like camera angles and movements in this video, and that's what makes it unique. It's just a run and gun video really, and it's really simple, but the way they went ahead and approached it is dope. I now have the pull-in video pulled up in Premiere Pro, and throughout the video, this is that blur, like blend transition that I was talking about throughout. It's really clean, it's really simple. It's basically just directional blur with some opacity keyframing. So we're gonna go ahead and cut out the actual transition, and then we're gonna replace it with our own version, just kind of recreating it. So to do that, I would have 2 separate clips on 2 different video layers, and then I'd probably just like overlay the clip like by like 3-ish frames. And we'll start off with an opacity keyframe. So we'll go right to the end, we'll keyframe that to something like 50. You could probably go a little bit lower, like 25 or something, but now you can see there's that blending of the clips between the 2 layers. And now this is really simple. Like this video like is really clean, but the way they execute everything is dope. Then I would just keyframe the blur length and then go right to the end and keyframe it till it looks good. And it looks pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and change the direction 90 degrees. That way it's horizontal. And then I would add the same directional blur with the same angle. And then on this bottom clip, just keyframe the blur length to start off something a little high, and maybe have it last like 1 frame after that transition ends. And just have it go to 0. So now you can see we have a really smooth transition here. You can play around with the different blur lengths and everything, and then you can also just Bezier them just so it's a little bit smoother of some motion. But then you have a really smooth transition just like that. I think with the movement of the cameras, this blur transition does a really good job at just having a little bit more energy. And honestly, it's a little hard to pick up on when you're actually just watching the video. It adds that little flow to the video that just helps out a bit. Now let's just show some different ways you can create those digital camcorders or like VHS looks or film looks on your footage fairly easy. So we got this clip of Yachty here, and then let's put an adjustment layer above that clip. And the way I would go about getting that film look is I would drag on my film look adjustment layer preset. That way when you drag it on, it's gonna give that grain, it adds some Gaussian blur, some noise, and just colors the footage a bit more. Another thing that I would do to get that whole vibe is I would duplicate the footage and then drag on my film halations preset. That just makes like the highlights kind of like distort the reds around bright areas. You can see that in my vlog clips, like you'll see like this area here is probably a little distorted and all that stuff, and that's kind of just how I do it. If you also just wanna go crazy with that whole film aesthetic, you can duplicate that video layer 1 more time and then drag on a bloom. That's gonna make these highlights like a little bit more like washed out. It has like that like almost like pro mist filter vibe. Now in that same effects pack for my essentials bundle, I have digital camcorder that gives you a digital camcorder aesthetic, as well as a digital night shot camcorder that gives like that night vision vibe. I have vintage camera with border, vintage camera, high 8, black and white picture aesthetic, so it kind of has that lag. There's a lot of things in that pack that will give you this vintage look, and I can't go through and break down everything, but it pretty much just plays with different blurs, noises, and then colors. So if you wanted to recreate your own version, you basically just add some noise in, some different type of blurs to make it a little bit more distorted. It's really important that you actually color grade your footage in a certain way. How I would go about it personally is I would reference some old films that I thought looked cool, and then just color grade accordingly and just match the footage. If you're not too comfortable with that, in the essentials bundle, I do have a LUT pack, and a majority of them are inspired by film looks. I really like that aesthetic, and I kind of incorporate that in all of my videos. I think it'd be cool to maybe show you how I'd recreate some kind of VHS effect without a preset or without a plugin. So let's add like some noise onto your footage, and that's probably like the first step. I like to uncheck color noise because it just like, I don't know, I think color noise looks weird sometimes, and then just play with that value till you get something you like. This is where presets are pretty nice though, because you can just drag it on, and then if it's not your exact look, like you'll see I have all these like blurs and noises and different color things already on there, and if you just want to change some things, you can really easily. Then I'd probably add some kind of blur, like maybe mosaic, just to like kind of pixelate the footage and make it look old, and you'll have to change that up a lot, like 500. There's like a fine line between it looking like really digital and fairly realistic. You can see when we add that on, it pixelates everything. And just keep in mind the order of where you drag these different effects is going to affect the footage a lot. So having the effects in the right order help out a lot too. And honestly, there's no like right order of effects, but there are certain orders and different effects that you can add in certain sequences that do help get like that more realistic looking digital effect. I did a really good job in my presets creating realistic looking digital cameras. I think an effect like channel blur helps out a lot. It kind of just gives a little bit of fuzziness to the effect, and depending on your footage, it's gonna look different for everyone. Here, let's play around with a little bit of blue blurriness, and I'm also gonna drag that all the way to the top. That way it's a little hidden, and I think bringing up the mosaic quality a bit too will help. I will say with mosaic, just make sure that horizontal block and the vertical block are the same, otherwise it's gonna be like rectangles instead of squares, and it'll just look really weird. And then maybe we could just end with some classic lumetri color and just play with the colors a bit. I like to play with the tint and the temperature just to get an aesthetic that you like. This This whole video by Cole was very cool, so just warming it up a bit. And then maybe just washing out the shadows a bit, so it has a more faded look to it. So then for a quick before and after, this is my version that I made quickly with channel blur at the top, noise, mosaic, and then just some lumetri color. And I think this gives a pretty good aesthetic. You can see before and then after. I think that accomplishes the film look pretty good. Like I said, if you use it in your videos and it's a bit more like sparse throughout and it's not the whole entire thing, you can get away with these film looks that are digital, especially if you tweak it specifically to your footage. The way I normally go about getting these grains and stuff is I'll just add on one of my presets from my Essential bundle and then tweak it to the specific footage. But every once in a while, if I'm feeling creative and I want to create something brand new, I'll go into Premiere Pro and just drag on a bunch of effects until I get something that I like. While everything that I just mentioned in the video is important, the number one most important thing to take away from this video is if you want effects, like in the Poland video, you need yourself some pair of Berks to be edited in. Put them into sport mode real quick, and it's ready to go. Dang, the clean cable management makes it look so much better. Woo. If you guys are looking for more videos, here is a video that I did yesterday on how to edit like ESTG and Lil Durk style edits that Diesel Films and Jerry Productions do. And then here's a video on how to make liquid explosion effects, all stock in After Effects, no plugins, no presets necessary. This one's super hard as well. Peace.